Is this evidence of hidden love or just ordinary closeness? The camera was still on when Jungkook lost consciousness and Taehyung did something unexpected, a moment that wasn't even shown live. What does Taehyung's gentle sentence mean? Why is the army so jealous? The truth is finally revealed. He didn't know the camera was still on. That alone was enough to spark a stir. But when we talk about Jungkook, and even more so if Taehyung is involved, everything that seems small can turn into a storm of emotions that shakes the virtual world in an instant. So the question is now, what actually happens after that live broadcast ends? And why do the soldiers who are usually happy to witness their closeness actually feel jealous, even beaten? It all starts with a smile. A sincere, pure, and warm smile radiated from Taehyung's face as he said in the middle of the live, "I'll catch up with Jungkook to Switzerland." That seemingly light sentence becomes an emotional time bomb that makes millions of hearts tremble at the same time. The moment was captured in the camera's glare very naturally, without a scenario, without filters, without a script, just two figures who are so close and know each other more than anyone. But something strange happened then. Something that even loyal fans had time to ignore, until finally appeared footage of the seconds after the live ended. And everything changed dramatically. The camera is still on. Jungkook doesn't know. Taehyung realized. And the reaction? So gentle, polite, yet piercing into the heart of anyone who sees it. No anger, no awkwardness, just a sentence too sweet to ignore. A sentence that makes one wonder, what is really going on behind the scenes of their friendship? Taehyung looked at Jungkook and said in a low but clear voice, "You know, I told them because I wanted you to know. I never want you to go alone again." That sentence, as if piercing the soul. Is that a joke? Is that the usual form of attention from a friend? Or more than that? Jungkook, who was still busy shutting down the app, only realized seconds later that their camera was still on. And his expression, genuine, raw, maskless expression, went viral at lightning speed. There was no acting, no pretending, just the face of a man who was shocked, moved, and maybe feel guilty. Shortly after, he nervously chuckled, trying to break the ice, but the slight crack in his voice couldn't be hidden. Why did Jungkook react like that? What made him so moved by one sentence from Taehyung? Aren't they known as close friends? But since when can a friend's words make a person lose control of his emotions? The army began to search for clues. They repeated live, dissected expressions, studied word for word. And what was surprising, not one, but hundreds of fans began to realize that their interaction that night was different, much deeper, more personal. Some even call it a subtle confession hidden behind a joke. Why did Taehyung choose Switzerland? Why didn't he mention another city? Does he really have any business there or just want to be by Jungkook's side? That question hangs in the air. And not having time to be missed, additional pieces of video appeared. A leak from Backstage, where a staffer accidentally recorded their highly audible conversation, emotional. In the video, Taehyung is seen gently stroking Jungkook's shoulder while saying, "You always look strong in front of everyone, but I know you're tired." That sentence made the Twitter timeline turn into a sea of tears. Since when is Taehyung so open? And why can only Jungkook say that? Netizens reacted quickly. Some feel this is just a close friendship, but not a few are beginning to wonder. Is this the beginning of something bigger? The controversy widened further when one of HYB's video editors reportedly tried to remove the extra footage from the platform, but failed because the video had already spread. Is HYB trying to hide something? Is this part of a personal story that is deliberately not brought up in public? More surprisingly, in an interview a few days later, Taehyung was asked about his plans to Switzerland. He just smiled and replied, "Sometimes we don't need an excuse to go somewhere. Sometimes we just want to be close to someone." The answer became trending within 12 minutes. And the army instantly flooded social media with two extreme reactions: overwhelmed and jealousy. Why jealous? Maybe because it's too beautiful. Maybe because it's too real. Or maybe it's because they see something they've always dreamed of happening, but not for them. One of the most viral comments came from the @GNVibes account. "I'm glad they love each other. Why does my heart hurt?" Of all the questions that arise, the single most painful question is this: Would this closeness last if the world knew it all? Jungkook and Taehyung have always kept things to themselves. They rarely reveal details about their relationship offstage. But this moment, when accidentally left camera turns on, was the only time where everything was recorded without a plan. No limits. And censored. And this is where it all began. As everyone begins to piece together the scattered puzzle pieces, from Taehyung's soft lines, Jungkook's look in his eyes, a quiet touch on the shoulder, to a barely audible whisper, they realize that this isn't just a funny moment caught on camera. This is a fragment of something much larger. A hidden story that has been tightly locked behind the scenes, but is now open for one thing: a small omission from a still camera. I ask this a sign that they have been hiding a deeper relationship all this time? Or is this just a proof of true friendship that is already too difficult to describe in words? Each army has its own interpretation. But one thing is certain: no one sees the two of them in the same way anymore after this moment. And HYB? As of now, there is still no official comment. But rumor has it, there are some clips that are missing from the original footage. Clips are possible, save more explicit sentences. A sentence that can change everything. And now, the army can only hope that the moment is true. I hope this mystery is never really solved, because sometimes it's not said, it hurts more than it says. And from that moment on, everything changed. It's as if just one small incident, a supposedly simple live, followed by seconds in the aftermath that were never planned, has opened the door to a world that BTS's loyal fans could only guess, conjecture, and feel. What they didn't expect was the psychological impact it had on Jungkook after the moment went viral. An unnamed source revealed that Jungkook had refused to perform the next live stream for more than a week. He felt ashamed, he said. But not because of what Taehyung said, not because the camera is on, but because everyone now knows that he, Jungkook, who always appeared confident on stage, was unable to hide his face when surprised and moved. Then is it wrong? Of course not. But for Jungkook, his emotional transparency, especially when it comes to someone like Taehyung, isn't something he wants others to see. "You can see everything from my face," he said in one of the recordings in the rehearsal room, as he spoke to Jimin, who seemed to be listening without interrupting. "And they see everything, including something I can't even explain to myself." What exactly has he not been able to explain? Impressed by a friend? Feeling warm from being noticed? Or fear of losing? Back to that live. The editors, who are usually tasked with cutting out unimportant parts of the recording, are now blaming each other. None of them realized that their cameras were still recording until almost 2 minutes after they thought it was over. 2 minutes, which is now one of the most viral pieces of video in the ARMY community, even referred to as the 2-minute confession by international fans. There was one very decisive second. The 47th second after the live ended, as Taehyung tilted his head, looked at Jungkook, who was busy with his phone, then said quietly, "You don't always have to be strong, you know." That sentence became the core of thousands of theories. Some people call it a sign that Taehyung knows more about Jungkook's emotional distress than anyone else. Others are convinced that this is a form of feeling that has been suppressed and can only come out when there is no script, no public, and no cameras, at least according to them. But the camera is still on, and then we have to talk about the gaze. It wasn't an ordinary look. ARMY's most observant immediately compared the moment to various old clips. Taehyung's gaze when Jungkook was speaking at a concert, Taehyung's gaze when they did a V-Live together, and what made the most noise, Taehyung's gaze when Jungkook slept in the back of a car in the video Bon Voyage. In each of those videos, Taehyung's eye spotlights always have something that can't be explained in words. A warmth that is not made up. And at the 58th second of the video, the camera is still on, the gaze reappears. Natural. Not made up. It even feels too real for the size of a professional relationship or just a best friend. When asked in a radio interview a few days later if he felt uncomfortable after the incident went viral, Taehyung simply smiled a little and said, "I've never regretted saying something sincere." It was a subtle confirmation, not that he was hiding something, but that he didn't mind being a little open. But the most interesting thing is how the other BTS members reacted. Jimin, as usual, did not say anything directly. But some ARMY noticed that in one of his solo live, he mentioned, "Sometimes those who are too close just don't realize how deep their bond is." That seemingly ordinary phrase, after such a viral moment, was considered the code of Jimin Suga in his podcast, Only Laughed. When the moment that the public should never have seen has now spread around the world, the only thing that remains is, how did they react? Jungkook and Taehyung may not have said anything explicitly after the camera is still on scene, but their body language, expressions, and silence speak volumes. And now, when silence begins to feel heavier than words, the public wonders, are they holding something back? Something not to share with anyone. Meanwhile, the major media outlets began to sniff the scent of the hidden chemistry of their interactions. An international magazine even wrote a long article titled, "The Moment the World Saw Something BTS Never Intended to Show," and ARMY? They welcomed him with great excitement. Some consider the article too sensational, but others feel that, for the first time, the media is seeing what only fans have realized, that there is a depth to V and Jungkook's relationship that even the word friendship doesn't adequately describe. Then, the public was shocked by one almost absurd incident, a comment from Jin, who had just finished his military service. In his first V Live after leaving the army, Jin read one of the fan comments which read, "Did you watch the moment JK and V's cameras were still on?" Jin was silent for a few seconds, then smiled. "Yes, I see." Then he raised an eyebrow, squinted at the camera, and said, "You're not surprised, are you? I mean, they used to be like that." The comments section exploded. The sentence is simple, but ambiguous. Like that means what? Is Jin leaking something that has been under arrest? From then on, nothing else could be considered a coincidence. ARMY began digging archives. All of Taehyung and Jungkook's interactions were dissected. From their first debut, old V Live in 2014, footage from a concert in Brazil where V held Jungkook's hand longer than usual, to a Japanese radio interview where Jungkook mentioned that only Taehyung could tell stories without censorship. One by one, the moments that used to be taken for granted now look like small clues, like puzzle pieces of a big unfinished secret. And one thing in common appears in all those pieces: sincerity. Nothing far-fetched. No acting. There is no script. More surprisingly, some fans claim to have received DMs from HYB editors asking them to remove the compilation video of the camera-on moment because it was considered copyright infringement. But why is HYB so defensive against clips that are not even officially released? Don't they usually just let fans celebrate BTS moments? Speculation is mounting. Is HYB trying to cover up the overly intense emotional relationship between the two members? Dan, why? Are there any unwritten rules that limit their closeness from being shown in public? Or is HYB afraid that the emotions that appear in front of the camera can change the public's perception of the image that has been maintained? But one thing they couldn't control was the response from people who watched the video. One fan wrote on Twitter, "When Taehyung says, 'I don't want you to go alone anymore,' it's not an ordinary sentence. That sounds like a request, someone who has been abandoned too many times." The comment drew thousands of reactions. Some agreed. Someone added a theory. Some even likened the moment to a scene from a romantic drama. And in fact, no scenario can beat the intensity of real emotions as recorded that night. What about Jungkook? A few weeks after the incident, he finally appeared on a radio show. The host briefly touched on Switzerland and asked, "You're glad Taehyung's going to Switzerland too, right?" And Jungkook, just a little laugh. But seconds later, he turns his face away from the camera, then answers quietly, "She always knows what I need," before I even realized it. That sentence was more than enough to set fire to a theory that had so far only been hearsay. Because in the end, it's not what they say clearly that makes the world cry, but what they whisper, only to each other. Most heartwarming, however, was an audio clip from the rehearsal room, which was leaked by a technical staffer. In the footage, Jungkook is heard saying, "I sometimes feel like I have to pretend that I'm okay, so that other people still believe I'm strong." But Taehyung, he never believed in the show. "He can see what I'm hiding." The footage went viral, not because of the words alone, but because of the silence afterwards. Heavy silence. A silence that makes everyone realize that love, whatever its form, is about the courage to be present in the quietest moment. And that's how this story keeps flowing. from one camera that forgot to turn off. It is now an unstoppable stream of global emotions. The question now is no longer whether there are more than just friends among them, but rather, if there are we ready to accept the truth? Whether the public can let two people who have entertained the world for more than a decade to